Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. This is a big one. In fact, I had to bust out my ATF Always Taking Fun shirt for this video because this has to do with forced reset triggers. Rare Breed, Lawrence DeMonico, and the National Association for Gun Rights won their case against the ATF, and the ATF's rule, we'll call it, against forced reset triggers, the ATF deciding unilaterally that FRTs are machine guns when we all know that they are not. Well, that has been deemed illegal by Judge Reed O'Connor in the Fifth Circuit Court. Judge Reed O'Connor giving us yet another win here. This is really good news. Make sure you're subscribed and we're going to talk all about it. I had a feeling that this one was coming at some point, especially after the bump stock case. We won that case. The ATF cannot make laws. Laws are only to be made by elected members of Congress. That's how our democratic, our constitutional republic is supposed to work. And the ATF, under Chevron deference for a very long time now, and especially it seems during the last 3.5 years, has felt like they are the arbiters of what is legal and what is illegal when it comes to firearms and the Second Amendment. And they are getting told over and over and over again in the courts that they can't do that, that that is not legal, and that the ATF cannot make law. And with Chevron deference just being struck down, they're getting told, and this is a huge deal. So if you're not aware of what forced reset triggers are, although I assume that you probably are if you're watching this video, forced reset trigger is actually a very cool idea. When they first came out, I thought about getting one, and I've always kind of kicked myself for not getting one. But at the time, my gun collection was much smaller, and I had triggers in all of my ARs. I didn't feel like it was worth spending $500 on another trigger. I even have a Fostech Echo binary trigger in one of my ARs, and it's fun. I don't use the binary mode nearly as often as I did when I first got that trigger. But luckily, it is 3-position, and so in the center position, you can run it as a standard semi-automatic trigger. In my newer builds, like all 3 of these have Geisley triggers in them. But that's not really the point. We should have the right, and we do have the right, according to Reed O'Connor, to purchase and to own and to use things like forced reset triggers. And while, of course, you guys all know that I believe that we should also have the right to own machine guns if we so choose, currently, machine guns are NFA items, and there are no new transferable machine guns post 1986. And so the FRT, the forced reset trigger, was an invention. It first came out from a company called Rare Breed Triggers, And what it does is that you pull the trigger, and you don't just hold it down and the gun continues to cycle and fire. What happens is when your bolt carrier cycles, it pushes and forces the trigger to reset, and then when it comes back forward, it allows you to pull the trigger again. Well, if you keep the right amount of pressure on the trigger, you will be able to pull the trigger as fast as the gun cycles. So to the uninitiated, observing, someone shooting a forced reset trigger might look, sound, feel like a fully automatic machine gun, but it is not. If you look closely, their finger is moving back and forth very quickly. And in fact, it is in the name forced reset trigger. The trigger is reset between every shot. Well, this is the issue. They wanted to ban these things because they shoot really fast. But that is not what the definition of a machine gun is. The definition of a machine gun has to do with a single function of the trigger and the firearm continuing to fire without manually reloading, that it fires automatically with a single function of the trigger. And with a forced reset trigger, it doesn't do that. Every single round has a new function of the trigger. As Judge Reed O'Connor put it, the ATF cannot just decide that something is a machine gun when it is not, per the definition of machine gun. But before we get into the rest of this, let's have a quick word from our channel partner. If you'd like to help support Sawtooth Tactical, the very best way to do that is to click the first link in the description. That link is aura.com/sawtooth-tactical. If you use my link, you get a 2-week free trial. And you can quit anytime, but you probably want to stick with it as I have. What has Aura done for me? Well, I don't get any spam calls anymore. I don't get spam emails. I don't get calls from scammers. What they do is they find all the data brokers that have your information online. They submit opt-out requests on your behalf so that you don't get scammers and spam calls anymore. But they do a lot of other things too. They have a VPN, which just helps to protect your privacy. They've got a ton of stuff, and it all comes in at a very low price. If you stick with it after that 2 weeks, it is only $12 a month. I think Aura is pretty cool because they sponsor gun-related channels, which not a lot of sponsors are willing to do that. And it really helps channels like mine be able to produce this kind of content. YouTube doesn't really like to monetize gun-related videos anymore. And so sponsors like Aura make things like Mark 18 builds possible. So check it out. It's definitely worth trying it out for 2 weeks. Like I said, you're probably going to want to stick with it. I don't have to worry about scammers anymore. I don't have to worry about spam calls, spam emails. And that's been really nice. I use my phone for work, and so I have to answer calls that I don't recognize all the time. And none of them are scammers anymore. And I really like that. So again, check it out. First link in the description, aura.com/sawtooth-tactical. I can almost guarantee that you're going to love it. Check it out. So what has happened here? The ATF decided that these triggers were machine guns, even though any of us that know anything about firearms and that the way that they function, we all knew that they weren't machine guns. Well, the ATF decided that they were, and that anyone in possession of them, whether they be manufacturers or end customers and just users, people that owned them, well, now they were in possession illegally of unlawful machine guns. And they took action on that. They seized property. They sent out letters to people. They visited people at their homes and scared the absolute shit out of people, telling people that they were in possession of illegal machine guns. Being in possession of an illegal machine gun can put you in prison for 10 years, can fine you up to $250,000, and can get your dogs shot. That is not something that anyone wants to deal with when they bought a product that logically is perfectly legal and is not a machine gun. It just shoots fast. It doesn't shoot fast. It just makes it easier for you to shoot fast, the end user of the firearm. Well, the ATF took all this action, and Rare Breed and Lawrence DeMonico, they sued the ATF. And in the meantime, these things basically disappeared from the market. Now, they didn't totally. There is a secondary market for them, but prices on force reset triggers and even just the parts for them has skyrocketed because kind of like post-86 machine guns, or pre-86 machine guns, there were only so many of them available. And when supply does not equal demand, the price goes up. Well, this could be really good news for anyone like me, like maybe you, that thought that it would be cool to have one of these. Now, I don't think it's something that I necessarily want to use on my most serious guns. I think that semi-automatic is a more controlled and precise and accurate way to shoot in general. But a force reset trigger sure looks like a lot of fun. And in fact, much more fun than a binary trigger where you have to pull for 1 round, release for 1 round, and you can really only shoot it. You can get very good at shooting binary, but you can really only shoot it as fast as you can pull and release your finger. Well, the force reset trigger is the same way, although that release is forced by the action of your cycling bolt carrier group. So if you just give it a little bit of pressure, it'll continue to run. The thing is, if you do hold the trigger back to the rear, it will not continue to run, and that's what makes it not a machine gun. If you put good hard pressure back to the rear on the trigger, it will fire one round, the hammer will drop, and then the bolt carrier group will get stuck on the force reset mechanism, making your firearm malfunction. You have to let the trigger reset every time for it to be able to do what it does. And that's what makes it, again, not a machine gun. Well, National Association for Gun Rights, Lawrence DeMonico, Rare Breed Triggers, they won this case. Judge Reed O'Connor vacated the ATF's rule on it and in fact is forcing them to take pretty much instant remedial action within the next 30 days. They have to send out letters to everyone that they sent letters to, scaring people, telling them that they were in possession of an illegal item. Hopefully people didn't, I'm sure some people did, which is unfortunate. But hopefully not too many people destroyed their $500 triggers, because I'd be pretty pissed if I, was worried about the ATF coming and kicking in my door and killing my dogs. And so I destroyed something that cost me a lot of money, and now it is legal again. But let's be clear, it was never actually illegal. The ATF was just doing what the ATF does, and it was basically lying to the public, telling everyone that these things were illegal. Well, the ATF cannot make law, and Judge Reed O'Connor made that very clear in this case. So besides the letters, as far as the remedial action, the ATF has to send letters to people saying basically that they were wrong, that these are not illegal machine guns. Well, they also have to return confiscated property, not only to end purchasers, users, owners of these force reset triggers, but also to manufacturers and distributors. And that's a lot of property. They did raid people, they raided companies, they took stuff, they stole stuff. This was theft. This agency literally came in and stole people's stuff under the pretense that these things were illegal when they were not. And they never had the power to decide that they were illegal. And the judge in this case made that very clear. And I think it is definitely worth reading the 64 pages. We don't do that on this channel generally. I don't just read, court cases to you guys because I feel like that's kind of boring. I don't want my head down like this while I'm recording a video. So I'm just giving you the facts that I think that are important about this. So what is important about this? Well, I do think that these will go back into production at some point, hopefully soon. We'll see. I mean, Rare Breed just spent a lot of time and a lot of money fighting this case. Fighting it, honestly, on our behalf, but also, of course, for their own means. They want to stay in business. I'm sure that this idea, this product, was a huge cash cow for them, and they have not been able to manufacture and sell their product ever since this started. So hopefully they are able to go back into production, back into distribution. Hopefully we will see these things on the shelves at our local gun stores, online, and be able to purchase them again. And hopefully, because they will be being produced again, hopefully the price will come down a bit. Now, it's not going to be as cheap as your regular drop-in trigger, at least not at first, no matter what. And Rare Breed did win a lawsuit against Wide Open Triggers, Big Daddy Unlimited. Really, at this point, Rare Breed is the only ones that can make this type of trigger. They do have a patent on it. And they won that patent lawsuit as well. So they are batting 2 for 2 right now. The only unfortunate thing about that is there doesn't look like there's going to be much competition in this space. And so they kind of will be able to, charge what they want for their patented trigger technology. At the same time, guaranteed it's going to be less expensive than they are right now if you find them on the secondhand kind of gray market. Obviously, they're legal. It shouldn't even be a gray market, but it's been looked at that way. It's something that people have been afraid to show that they even had for quite a while now since this case started. Well, if you have one, you can go dig it up out of your backyard and take it to the range and do some mag dumping in celebration, because this is a big deal. And it's not just a big deal for these forced reset triggers. This has broader implications. And it basically, this is just another one of those cases that tells the ATF that they can't do this shit. That is not their job. Their job is to enforce existing laws, not interpret them and decide that what they want to be illegal is illegal. That's not the way it works. Only Congress gets to make laws, and Judge Reed O'Connor made that very clear in this case. So, if you're looking forward to getting a forced reset trigger, good news. Hopefully they will be on the market again soon, and hopefully the 3-position version that we were promised is what will come out. Now, when I say 3-position, I mean on your safety selector. Safe, fire, as in standard semi-automatic, where the hammer actually engages with the disconnector between each shot, and a 3rd position where full auto would be on an M16, but in this case, forced reset, where it doesn't engage with the disconnector and instead engages with the forced reset mechanism, doing what we talked about earlier. Because that was also a big thing that held me back from getting one originally, is if you really only have the option of the forced reset function, to me that makes it just a fun range toy gun. If you do have 3 positions where you have the option of standard semi-automatic and forced reset, well, all of a sudden that becomes something that you could use more seriously if you needed to. Both, having accurate, precise semi-automatic capability, but also being able to lay down suppressive fire if it really came down to it. So what do you guys think about this? I want to give a big congratulations and a thumbs up to Lawrence DeMonico. He's been fighting this for a long time. He used to do regular updates for everyone, but there hasn't really been any update until now in quite a long time. But this is the big one. This is what we've all been waiting for, at least anyone that is interested in this type of stuff. So I want to know what you guys think. Do you have a forced reset trigger? What do you think about it? I know that they take some tuning sometimes to get them to run reliably. How has your experience with them been? If you don't have one, do you plan to get one now that the judge has literally said that they are legal and that they have been legal this whole time? I want to know what you guys think. I love reading your comments. I try to reply to as many of them as I can. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like. If you want to support Sawtooth Tactical, sign up for the first link in the description. You get 2 weeks free. It's Aura. They've stopped me from getting any kind of spam calls. They just protect your privacy online, which these days is kind of huge. From Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.